So here we are in the MIT App Inventor, and we'll be actually creating our first app, which is a basic 4-function calculator. Basically, we will have the ability to add, multiply, subtract and divide two numbers and display the result. That is what we want to do, a simple calculator. So for that, we'll go step by step, understand what is going on, and actually this very app building right now will be beneficial for creating more apps, because this is the part where you actually get your fundamentals clear. I would say that right now our Arduino IDE fundamentals and the Arduino programming language fundamentals are really at a good stage, and I would like to do something similar with our MIT App Inventor as well. So first of all, for adding, subtracting, multiplying and dividing, there will be 4 buttons, of course. That is something. So I'll be just actually dragging and dropping 4 buttons. Let's rename these buttons first. So I'll be renaming these buttons as add, subtract, multiply and divide. So I've renamed our buttons, and now what I'll be doing is I'll be actually adding text for each button. So we can keep the font size of each button to be around, I would say 20. That is okay. So I'll also be adding text here, and I'll be writing add in the add button. So add over here. Then for our subtract button, we'll be keeping the font size again to be 20, and we'll add subtract as our text. Now we move on to multiply button, where we will keep our font size to be 20 and our text to be multiply. This looks good. And finally, for our last button, we will keep our text as divide and font size as 20. So our 4 buttons have been created. Right now we're just editing our GUI, which is the screen, and moving on, we'll be going to the block section and actually writing the program, joining the blocks, creating the logic and everything. So next, what do we want? We want a text box or any other place where we can actually input our numbers. So I'll be using a text box for that. So right here you can find a text box. So I'll be using 2 text box, and rather let's actually use 3 so that we can use 1 to display our result. So our text box can be, I'll just rename this as number 1. Then this text box can be number 2, and this text box can be result, whatever the result comes out to be. Now at this point of time, our app does not look good. I mean, we know what the text box and buttons are, but whenever a user will see this, they will not be satisfied and they will actually not understand what is going on. So let's actually organize our app and see what it looks like then. So for that, I'll be also using labels. So let's actually have 3 labels, and I'll be placing these labels in such a way that, okay, this is text for label 1, this is text for label 2, this is text for label 3. So our label 1 will be basically enter number 1. Okay, so you can't actually add spaces. So I'll be writing enter number 1 underscores. So our purpose actually is to create sort of GUI which is understandable. So that is one of the app fundamentals. So I'll be writing enter number 2, and over here we can just have a text label that says result. Okay, so we can say display result, just to so that our components are not having the same name. Display result. I'll also be changing the text. So I'll be writing over here, we'll go to font size, make it 20, and we'll be writing enter first number And in our label 2, we'll be writing enter second number. We're making the font size as 20, and in our text for label 3, we'll just write result and keep the font size as 20 again. So even now, I feel that our app can look much better. So this is where the layout function comes in. So in layout, there are two types of arrangements that we are going to be using: the horizontal arrangement and the vertical arrangement. So just now we used from the user interface buttons. We all know what a button can do. We all know what is the function of label. Basically, just have that character or that name just be written there. And for text box, basically that is something that we are using to input our values and at the same time get the result in the text box also. So you can always get the result in the form of a label, but text box will look better. And now comes the part where we'll be actually keeping this app in an organized manner. So first of all, of course, you want the label to be on the top, so you can just drag and drop. Then you want our text box to be just underneath that, and we want our enter second number label with our text box just beneath that, and then at the last we want our result label along with the text box where the result will be shown. So I'll be using the horizontal arrangement, and I'll show you how I'll be using it. So I'll be adding it here. So you must have noticed that every time I add a new component, it comes from another line, so to say. So I'll be just adding add over here. So what the horizontal arrangement will do is that it will help me put add and subtract adjacently. So this is looking much better now. So I'll be using another horizontal arrangement to put together multiply and divide. Still, I would say it does not look that great. So what I'll be doing is I'll actually be setting their width to 50% of the screen, and you'll see how it looks so much better now. So I'll be writing 50 over here, and for subtract as well, I'll be writing the width as 50%. So you can clearly see the difference of how our app looks like now. So for these two also I'll be doing the same. So we're writing 50, and for this I'll be writing 50 as well. So now I would say our button signs look really good, and in its entirety our app looks really good. So this is what our app looks like, and every time we enter the two numbers, we can just press a button and we'll get our result. So now we come to the most important stage, that is the block section, where we will be actually writing the code in a block based manner. So let me just reiterate what a calculator does. We all know what it does, right? Every time you put two numbers, you can either add them, subtract them, multiply them, or divide them. That is what our calculator is doing. So what is exactly happening? We are asking, okay, in a text box, the user needs to input two numbers. We are taking that as a given. Next, what we are doing is, we are saying that every time the add button is pressed, we want to use the add operator, we want to use the plus sign. So I will show you how that is being coded in a blocked way. So I'll be saying, okay, every time the button add is pressed. So when add is pressed, that is what this block means. What that means is that when add is clicked, you have to do something. So what do we want to do? We want that our two numbers are added and the result is displayed in the text box. So let me just go to the result text box again, and over here you can see the display result text box where it says, okay, I'll be going to set display result text, which means that, okay, set the text of this text box to some kind of whatever you want it to be. So what we want it to be is the sum of our number 1 and number 2. So we'll be going to math now, and you will see how we already have an operator where we can add this. So let's see what's happening. When the button add is clicked, we are displaying the text portion of the text box. Basically, our text box will show the sum of two numbers using our block over here that we just dragged on from the math section. So what are these two numbers? These are the numbers that we are inputting in the text boxes. The text box number _1 and the other text box, that is number _2. So we want the text of number 1. So I just, all these blocks are available as soon as you press whatever text box or button you are using. So I just pressed number 2 here and I went to number 2 text and I'll just put this right here. So now you can see what our blocks look like. So when the button add is pressed, we set the text of our result text box to the sum of our two numbers that we have inputted. So now I feel that you are understanding how the code is working. So as you can see, it says that return the sum of two numbers. Similarly, we're going to use the same principle for the rest of the 3 buttons. So what do we want? When the subtract button is pressed, set the result of the text box. Basically, set the text of the result display underscore result text box to the difference of the two numbers. That is what we're doing, right? So again, when the subtract button is clicked, I went to subtract the button, we are displaying the text. So another thing, that in case you know, generally all programmers are in a bit of a hurry, so we can just drag any set display result font size. So here we are using the font size, so instead of font size we can just press that and go to text. So now you can actually add it like this. You don't have to go through every time and find, okay, set dot text. You can just drag anyone and just using the drop down menu here, you can just say, okay, text color, width, whatever you want it to be. So text. So what do we want? Set the text to our difference. So this is another block that is available in the math section, and we'll be again using our text. So I'm just using height over here and I'll just put text over here, just using the drop down menu. So enter number 1, that is our text box where you're actually putting our numbers. So the text of that will be subtracted by our number 2 text. So here is the text button, and voila, our button will be functional. Moving on, we have our third number. So let's actually do the multiply button now. So when multiply is clicked, we want to set the text of our result text box to the multiplication, to the product of our two inputted numbers. That's exactly what I'll be doing here, and enter number 1, 2, and similarly set the text over here as well, just taking the text block, and our button is ready to go. And for our last button, we'll be saying that whenever divide is pressed, we want that our display result text box, where we are displaying the result, the text of that part of that text box actually is the quotient of our two numbers that we are inputting. So going to math, you can see the divide sign here. Just we'll be dragging the text block, so number 2 as well. So I'll be just reiterating again. So what these blocks doing, the number 1 dot text block, what it does is basically takes the text value that has been inputted in the text box. What does this set display result dot text do? Basically, if you have some sort of value like we have over here, or even if you have just some sort of value like any numerical value, you can just say set display result dot text to that numerical value. So that is all possible, and what we're doing here is that whenever this button has been pressed, we are saying that okay, now the result should be the sum of the two numbers if the button pressed is addition, difference of the two numbers if the button pressed is subtraction, multiplication of the two numbers if the button pressed is multiply, and division of the two numbers every time the button pressed is divide. So now I would say our app is ready. The block section is completely ready, as well as the designer section. So our app looks good as well. You can always have some sort of background image. If you go to screen over here, you have the ability to set a background color, a background image. So I'll be just setting the background color Let's keep it, I would say, or let's just leave it at white. And this is something that you can do over here. All the various features available, you can just check them out. So the app name can be customized, so we'll keep it as calculator. This is what our app will be called. And now let's actually transfer this app to our mobile phone using the live testing option, the AI companion. We're using this because it is a fairly simple app that does not require some sort of web or Bluetooth connectivity. And even if we encounter some error in the app, we can just change it with the help of the live testing, and we do not have to go through all the way of creating APK, then downloading it to our phone and doing a bunch of other stuff. So now we'll be moving on to the phone screen, and over there we'll have to of course bypass some permissions.